Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Now, today, because we finally finished all the classes, if you don't know, you can find them in the Naruto 5e help playlist. We're going to start talking about class mods. Now, I know a lot of y'all wanted clan videos, and I promise you eventually we're going to get to that. But I had already kind of had a video about most of the clans and a very kind of brief synopsis of them, so I wanted to talk about something that I think is really, really fun and a great addition, especially to Naruto 5e campaigns, but talk about their volatility, kind of the importance of using them, the pros and cons of using them, and kind of how to effectively use a class mod in a campaign without it being overbearing to the players or the DM. Now, as for these class mod videos, once I start making them, I'm mainly talking about the 7 kind of quote-unquote official class mods, and these are going to be the ones you can find on the Naruto 5e official Discord, and those are going to be your Cursed Seal, your Mangekyou Sharingan, your Rinnegan, your Sealed Beast, your Senjutsu/Sage Mode, your Tenseigan, and your Light and Dark Release. Those are going to be the 7 main ones that I'm referring to. There's plenty of homebrew class mods and things like that as well, but I'm not going to get into those because those can get a little funky and sometimes be either way less or way more powerful than these kind of official class mods are. So to start off, we'll kind of talk about the obvious question, what is a class mod? For those of you that don't really know or understand exactly what that is, basically it's something that is going to heavily alter your character. Typically it's given by the DM at a moment that seems fit for some reason, because usually they have some towards an impact to the story, especially in Naruto 5e. But these are things that are going to give your character access to maybe some really, really nasty abilities, maybe give them access to additional resources they didn't have, maybe give them some kind of, like we talked about Light and Dark Release, where it's very story relevant and it's kind of like setting up your hero villain, things like that, right? So there's going to be things that just give your character kind of a pretty big buff in most cases, and then also give them some story elements to play with. So for class mods, real quick, I'm kind of going to talk about pros and cons of class mods. And pros, pretty darn obvious, right? One, they're really cool and really fun for the players. You get tons of neat stuff. If they were big fans of, actually watching Naruto and Naruto Shippuden, it feels really cool because then you have access to these things that the other characters had, whether it's like a curse mark on you or whether you have light release now or, different things like that. It just makes you feel good. Another big pro, they can be huge story development pieces, right? If you give someone light release, that's a big deal. They are now the light of the campaign, so to speak, right? They are there to fight darkness. That it's in the description of the class mod. So as pros, quite simply, it's super, super cool and can make the characters and players feel like superheroes at times, which is a great feeling that most people tend to enjoy. On the other hand, though, you do have to be careful about watching out for the cons, and the main thing is going to be the kind of overpoweredness or overbearing nature of these class mods. They're powerful, and honestly, they're supposed to be. A class mod would be kind of boring and not very fun if it was really weak and you couldn't do very much with it, right? So they need to be powerful. So with that being stated, be very careful about who you give it to and be careful about when you give it to them. Because if you give a super min-maxy player a Cursed Seal really early in the campaign and you don't put a huge downside on it, that's a problem. They're going to get a ton of power and be able to really start abusing it from, session whatever you give it to them onward, possibly making the other players not feel super great because they just might start running every combat and kind of wiping everything. So be very cognizant of when that happens. Now, I'm fully aware this is going to be a pretty short video today, but it's because I just wanted to get the basic idea of all this stuff out. And lastly, I want to answer a question for you guys, and that's, should you even use a class mod? Depends on a couple of things, right? One, what's the comfort of both the DM and players? If you are all new to the idea of D&D and role-playing games and stuff like that, and hey, maybe my channel got you into it, which, awesome, let me know down in the comments because that always makes me happy. I love knowing I got more people into this space. If that is the case, I would probably avoid using class mods at least for the first 20 sessions, which sounds like a lot. And trust me, I get it. You want your Mangekyou Sharingans, you want your Rinnegans, you want your Cursed Seals and all this stuff because it feels good and it just feels cool. But it's a lot, all right? You got to be really careful because while I already mentioned the min-maxers being a problem, there's another problem of the players that are just uncomfortable with the system, right? If you already take, a couple to a few to maybe even 5 minutes on a single turn of combat, How do you think that's going to go when you now have access to 10 more different resources and 5 more abilities that all do a ton of different damage, and maybe have negatives that you now have to think about, and maybe this affects your team when you use it, right? Things of that nature. So it does add a lot of complication to the system. So if you're not fairly comfortable with it, or as the DM, maybe you don't feel your players are comfortable with it, you probably shouldn't be adding it in. Now, on the other hand, let's say you've surpassed that point and hey, your table's ready, you're like, hey, this is something we really want to do. Then honestly, by all means, try it out. And what I have to say for that as well is, as the DM, you can always remove this privilege somehow in the story, which doesn't feel great. It doesn't, but it might be for the health of the campaign. It might be for the health of the story, and know that you have that power. Let's say you're 18 sessions in and you decide, you know what, I think my team's ready. We're going to give someone a curse seal. You give them that curse seal, and immediately you're seeing and feeling the side effects of combat is taking twice as long as it was prior and things like that. If that's happening, hey, get the curse seal removed. And you know what you can do? Make that a plot point. Make it a thing where some villain comes in and steals the curse seal or something like that, right? There's tons of different options. So while maybe you try to do it and you kind of realize you aren't ready, that's okay. That's the beauty of D&D. You can try out these fun, exciting things and then revert them later with crazy story things that happen. So should you use it? Make sure you're ready for it. But if you're not, experimentation never hurt anybody. Now, the very last point I want to make about these class mods, you're gonna have to read. If you already don't like reading about your classes or your clans, and you don't like nerding out on that stuff, or maybe your players don't like reading on their classes and clans, do not put a class mod in the game. That's like 10 more pages of reading that you now have to do that you're not gonna want to do. All right, if you're not wanting to put in that extra effort to have a brand new edition that is going to heavily impact your campaign, I'm going to be real with you. Don't do it. All right? And I know you probably don't like hearing that, but it's just the truth of it. It's going to be a whole lot of learning. It's going to be a new curve that you're going to have to get over, a new hump. I mean, heck, if you watch our campaign, every time any of us got one of these new abilities, it took a couple sessions to figure it out. I mean, Arata, the first time he got Sage Mode, went ham jabroni and almost threw a fight. He almost went crazy. Easytoe, the first time he went nuts on Curse Mode, almost died. Suiko, she's still trying to figure out her dragon blessings, right? Like it's a learning process. These are all curves that you have to get over. So if you already struggle with that learning aspect of D&D, which is okay, different people are going to learn and kind of dive into it at a different pace, probably hold off for a little bit. And that's all I'm going to have for you today. I know this wasn't like a super highly informative video like I usually like these Monday videos to be, but I wanted some kind of intro and some kind of jump into class mods so I didn't just slap y'all with it randomly. I hope y'all enjoy this one. If you kind of have, some class mods you're really wanting to see, let me down in the comments and I would love to talk about them. Besides that, if you could hit the sub button, it's free. It means the world. Y'all support is crazy. We're almost at 1,100, by the way. You know how fast we went from 1,000 to 1,100? Y'all are nuts. Y'all are absolutely insane. Y'all are just a crazy fan base. But nonetheless, you guys are awesome. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.